So the history is it was built by Hawker for delivery to the Royal Navy. It flew with the Royal Navy for 5 or 6 years, and then it was bought back by Hawker, converted to a target tug. It was the prototype which went down to Germany. Its registration was D for Deutschland, C-O-T-E. The Germans operated this airplane as a target tug from 1958 until 1975, and it was up at a base called Lübeck in northern Germany, right on the coast of the Baltic. And something about the post-war agreement, the Germans weren't allowed to build their own airplanes, so they bought the Sea Furies from Hawker. Before that, they were Spitfire Mark 9s. They were using it target tugs. And they would, so this airplane flew from 58 to 74 or 75 up and down the Baltic coast, and the German AAA gunners would shoot a windsock, essentially, on a 2,000-meter cable. The rear cockpit was occupied by a winch operator, and there was a Swiss-built winch with a propeller, 5-bladed propeller about this big on the side of the fuselage, which provide motive power for the winch. So most of the dual-control Sea Furies that are left in the world were all German target tugs, because the Royal Navy flew this airplane just for 5 or 6 years, and they became obsolete because of the advent of the jet aircraft.
Good morning, I'm Tom Dwelle. This used to be my airplane, now belongs to the boys. Between the airplane when I flew it, which is here, a Wright 3350, we were pumped up to more than 4,000 horsepower, but the wings are short. As you can see, I had short wings compared to the original 38-foot wings. So 3 feet off of each side, inside to the ailerons. And the original engine, the Bristol Centaurus, a sleeve valve engine, was 2,550 horsepower, and I had more than 4,000. And it would go like hell. I've seen 550 miles an hour coming off the chute.
Yeah, okay. It's not hot. Don't matter.
It's the ram which locks the wing down. As the wing comes down, this goes into here, and then the pins go forward and back, and that's unobtainium. There are no more in the world. And we're lucky to find these two. We have one more that's a spare, but it's cracked. It's not really a spare. I don't know what we're going to do.
I just put a spring to hold it down.
Ken, what are you checking? What have you checked so far?
Well, I've checked everything about 27 times, but what's happening now is Dennis is having a look at it, and it's just a different set of eyes. Dennis has been working on the Sea Furies and building them, and he and his brother and his family own 3 flying Sea Furies. They have a shop that maintains Sea Furies. you know, they're as experienced as anyone currently living, I would expect, on the Sea Fury. So this is an opportunity to have a different set of eyes, having a look to see if you know what we missed.
We got the burp valve.
Yep.
Doing the controlling all the oil tank. We got the pressure, air pressure analyzing in the fuel system. Do you have the burp valve below the fuel tank, drop tank selector?
The one connected to this?
Yes.
Nope, it's still operating.
It's still in there.
It's still in there, and I know you told me to put an olive in there. Just weld the end up of the olive and drop it in there.
Or make a solid aluminum one. Take the
On
brass
lathe?
one out.
On a lathe?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got a brass or steel olive in it. Pull that olive out, make an aluminum one out of a plug and put it in.
Okay.
It won't hurt anything if you don't, but what it'll do is it'll start dripping oil here because if the two valves aren't matched in pressure, this one will start doing the work of the air oil or the pressure relief for the tank. And then it'll make a puddle of oil there.
Okay. That's easy enough.
It's easy enough. Square corner to washer's not doing something. The bolt looks like it's out just a little bit to me.
Oh, good. Okay.
If the washer gets worn and gets a little ramp on it, the bolt will want to ride up the ramp and jump out. So you got to make a square washer. You got to. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
See the split? And then that first tang. And it may have been square when you put it together and the clamp squished it and it popped out a little. But see, here, look at the, see how close the tang is to the edge? If it's going to have a problem, that's where it's going to be. But put large area washers on the springs, okay? Both ends.
I think it's time. We're out of excuses. So here we are at Auburn, California, which is 1,500 feet elevation. KAUN's the identifier. The runway runs east-west, 725. Intent of the climb right up to downwind after takeoff is in case, if there is an issue, need a place to put the airplane down. So straight ahead's not a good option, but if you can get 90 degrees through the turn, there's a lake here, and there's also a golf course here. And once you get to downwind, of course, if you're high enough, you can make the runway. As we got closer and closer to Saturday, July the 1st, it became clear that that was the day, and it became clear that the airplane was ready. That evening before, which was the 30th of June, I pulled the airplane out and we gassed it up. And we'd done a lot of taxi testing and so forth, but we'd never filled the fuel tank all the way up to the top. And I did not want to do that on fly day because I was fairly certain it was going to leak. But it didn't leak. And we filled it up that evening, and I ground ran it to check a couple of other things, and it was happy. And shut it down, chalked it, put the lower cowl on it, and the belly skin, which goes last two panels to go on the airplane because they're always off because you're always working in those two areas. Put those two covers on, checked the oil, and gave her a little pat on the wing, and went home. And the plan was that we were going to meet and fly the thing at 8 o'clock the next day. And I think Judy would tell you I was probably not a lot of fun to be around on Friday night. You know, there was not, I just don't think I was much fun to be around. And I think that when you build your airplane and test fly your airplane, in my opinion, you have too much information, too many data points. Because you know, what about this, what about this, what about this? I mean, I've checked it all, friends have checked it. I knew the airplane was ready, but still. So I just wanted to get it over with. I was tired of everyone asking, when's it going to fly, when's it going to fly? Cycle the landing gear to make sure that it comes down 3 green and locks. if we do have landing gear issues, we will resolve them. If we aren't able to resolve them, then we'll go to Mather, because they have a big wide runway and crash rescue. So you're going to take the Bonanza? You'll meet us down there?
Yeah, as soon as you're gone and orbiting overhead, I'll go.
Okay. So listen to 2165 and 22.7.
Yeah. Let's join up and see if we can get a crazy ass picture.
Let's get the first 15 minutes out of the way first. Suggestions? Input?
Thinking about it for too long.
That's correct.
It's just time to go fly.
Yep. You want to help me pull through a few blades?
That's a big blade to turn.
Yep. It's got a gear reduction too, so you're overdriving the engine. We've just pulled the propeller through a few blades. Pre-flight's done. We're standing around anxious, so let's do it.
On a chase plane, not sure when it's going to show up. Any minute, hopefully. Yeah, no worries. Okay, so just probably 3 or 4 miles out.
Time to think about it. Look over my shoulder. He's halfway around the final turn. Got on the runway and canopy shut, lock the tail wheel, boost pump on, mixture all the way forward. I said, here we go, just powered up and launched out of Auburn.
140 knots. Accelerating. The inner gear doors didn't close, but that's alright.
Gear doors didn't close after takeoff, and so I told Ken to bun it just a little bit.
It just requires a little bunt, and once both main landing gear have made the uplocks, it sends power through both switches, uplock switches, which are wired in series, and that provides the electrical power to close the solenoid to close those doors, and that happened. No big deal. We got over Ione, and what I wanted to do was drop the landing gear at altitude to make sure that we're going to get the wheels down, because that's the next worst case scenario, is the damn wheels don't lock down. So I wanted to get the wheels locked down. I wanted to slow the airplane down and stall it to verify the airspeed indicator is accurate as to what I think it should stall at, so that the landing could be a safe one with the indicated airspeed I expect. And I threw the wheels out, and I could feel them unlock. And from my flights in the Sanders airplane, it's pretty quick. You can feel it, you can hear it, clunk clunk, 3 green. And I threw the wheels down and nothing. I know they're unlocked, but I have no greens. I have 2 reds for the inboard gear doors and no greens. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And I called Dennis and I said, well, what do you see? And he said, well, they're out. And I said, well, they're out or they're down? He said, well, hold on, let me go look a little bit closer. And about that time, I got a tail wheel lock. Green light on the tail wheel. Well, there's a tail wheel, and so I yawed one direction a little bit, and it locked down. I got a green light, so I yawed the other direction, and I got a green light. Well, I got 3 green. And Dennis says, good, don't touch anything. Well, yeah, I agree. I agree. We're at 8,000 feet over Ione. I'll stall it, and I'll just put some flaps down and come on around and land. Anyway, got the airplane on the ground. He went around. I turned around and parked the airplane on the ramp and shut it down. And shortly thereafter, he's out there as well, and I'm out of the airplane. And I got to tell you, Roger, it felt pretty damn good. Judy showed up with my brother and friend Scott Carter in the Bonanza 5 or 10 minutes later, and that's a pretty good feeling. In fact, after we got done, slapping hands and so forth, I just sat in the shade next to the Sea Fury and just looked at it. Just looked at it. It's like, wow, there it is. And it's flown, and it's in one piece, and it's happy, and there's no oil on it, and here we are in Ione. Well, this is the front cockpit of the Sea Fury. It's got a proper British spade grip. This is one of the more difficult things to find for the project. It's just a very nice natural way to put your hand. This is for transmit. This is a proper switch. It's not wired to anything, but back in the day that turned on the gun camera. And you can also arm the guns and the rockets. That would be fire the guns, that would be drop the bombs, and or fire the rockets. That's all safe. We try to retain as much of the Britishness as we could, with the understanding that we intend to fly the airplane.